and will be placed on the property at least 7 days prior to the City Council meeting. A public notice will also be placed on the city's website, www.cityofconway.org. Items reviewed at tonight's Planning Commission meeting may be considered by the City Council as early as November 24th. First, we're going to take a look at the minutes from our October 19th meeting. Does anyone have any additions or corrections?
I'll make a motion to approve them.
Here we have a motion to approve from Ann Tucker, a second from Wendy Shirer. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please say no. All right, that passes unanimously. I believe the subdivision committee met this evening at 6:40 to discuss the Lewis Ranch subdivision. Who would like to give us a report on that meeting?
Mr. Chairman, the subdivision subcommittee met over at City Hall at 6:40 to consider the Lewis Ranch Phase 1 preliminary subdivision, and the request was approved unanimously by the subcommittee, and luckily there were no items for us to separately approve, so the entire subdivision was approved.
All right. Does anyone have any questions for Matthew about the subcommittee's deliberations and vote? All right. And I believe we're supposed to...
Make a motion to approve.
Okay.
I'm not make a motion to approve.
Got a motion to approve from Marilyn Armstrong.
Second.
Second from Justin Brown. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that passes unanimously. So we'll move on now to page 10 of the agenda.
We have to approve the zoning.
Oh, okay.
And that's not the part we do. We
Okay.
approve the zoning here.
Okay. Let's back up to page 6 on this. The Lewis Ranch. Okay. The Lewis Ranch Phase 1 preliminary subdivision. This property is located along Amity Road, north of Dave Ward Drive and west of Enterprise Avenue. It's 16.61 acres. The current zoning is a combination of I-1, which is intermediate industrial, and A-1, which is agricultural. The request for rezoning is to C3, highway shopping district. Existing structures there are 2 metal buildings, 1 wooden structure, and various mobile homes for sale. We're going to take comment from the public on this. First, we'll ask for anyone who would like to speak in favor of this. The first speaker will have 10 minutes, and any subsequent speakers will have 2 minutes each. Then we'll allow comment from anyone who's opposed to this rezoning request, and again, likewise, the first speaker will have 10 minutes, and any follow-ups, 2 minutes each. We ask that anyone who comes up, please identify yourself, give us your name and address, and then feel free to say whatever you want on this subject. So who would like to start? All right.
I'm working with the Lewis family and the Crane family. Development here, Dave Ward, Amity. Particular site is currently zoned A1 and some random industrial zoning from prior years past. And with all the development that's happening south of Dave Ward and what the highest and best use for this land will be, it falls in line with what the city's master plan is, and therefore.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Salter. Would anyone else like to speak in favor of this rezoning request? Would anyone like to speak in opposition to it? Okay, seeing none, I'll bring it into committee. Your reaction, your thoughts on this?
I mean, it fits right in line with what the master plan is. It's kind of the way all that stuff is going, and makes total sense, so.
I'm all for it.
Any disagreement with that?
Make a motion to approve.
I'll
Hey, we have
second
a
it.
motion to approve from Brian Quinn, a second from Ann Tucker. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? And that passes unanimously. You're welcome.
That was us quick.
Wow. All right.
We need to,
Now, the material on page 10 and 11,
Yeah. It's,
I guess we've,
hey, Brent, we might have
that
one more
was,
for you.
Yeah.
yeah.
2A is also Lewis, the second phase.
Yeah, it's,
One A was the subdivision. Oh, I'm sorry, I thought that's what we were doing. And 2A was the rezoning.
yeah.
Okay,
That's
so
what
we
we
just-
just
It's
did.
identical. Yeah,
That's what we just did.
yeah,
We're good.
yeah.
We-
we're good.
But what we voted on, I mean, it's identical to
Yes.
this, so we've really,
Well, we didn't have to vote on the subdivision.
yeah.
We just had to vote on the rezoning, which
Gotcha.
we just
Right,
did.
and that's what we,
That's what
yeah,
we-
Yeah,
we
that's
just
what we
covered
just
it,
did.
so you're good.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, you're good. Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah. Hey, the next request on page 12 of the agenda is from Conway Development Corporation, a conditional use permit request to allow hospital services in an RU1 zone, which is restricted use. This is at 2255 Sturgis Road, just south of the entrance to Meadows Technology Park. Again, the request is to allow hospital services on this site, which is currently wooded. It's almost all woods, so who would like to speak in favor of this? Who would like to start? Yes, sir.
I'm Bill Anderson, I'm an attorney here at Conway, I'm chairman of Conway Development Corporation. My address is, still be addressed?
Yes, sir.
711 Conway. This property is not 0.53 acres, it lies within the boundaries of the Meadows Technology Park, which is, as you mentioned, is owned by RU1. And we've asked for the condition use to allow hospital services, since otherwise would not be allowed. Since the RU1 in this facility was geared mostly toward office-related activities that apply to this, main industrial facility. We think this is a good fit for this property. This is the very southeast corner of the city limits, and the southeast corner of the Meadows subdivision, and the entrance would be independent of the main entrance into the Meadows. And I will let Jamie Gates, who's the EVP for the County Development Corporation, go into more details of the facility. We also have Mr. Matt Wiltshire with with the prospective purchaser here. I'm sure to answer those questions better.
Beth, can you make sure that microphone's turned on?
How about now?
There we go.
All right.
Thanks. Thanks, Ben.
Well, we should have done that. We should have flip-flopped that. I'm Jamie Gates, 5 Lexington Drive. I'm work for the Conway Development Corporation. Have been working with Acadia Health probably for the last couple months on the potential of locating a facility in Conway, Arkansas, and zeroed in on this site. I'll give you some information, but we're looking at 150 full-time equivalents spread out over the employees, spread out over the 24-hour operation of the facility. We're estimating 70,000 square foot building. And as Mr. Atkinson said before, in early contact with planning department and other Conway Regional Hospital, Baptist, and other tenants in the technology park, our board thought that this was a good fit, one, within our healthcare economy, two, within our tenant makeup of the technology park, and three, just as a kind of visible sign of the future development that we're going to see as a result of the Southern Interchange and more people using that part of town. We do have Matt Wiltshire with Acadia Health, who would be available to answer questions about this facility in particular, kind of the operations and, anticipated, issues related to noise and traffic and just the day-to-day operations. So.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Gates.
Sir, I'm keeping the time up here. I got it.
Okay, again, I'm Matt Wiltshire. I'm actually the CEO of Mill Creek of Arkansas. Work with Acadia, and we were, looking at operating a acute care hospital there at the present address. Just to kind of give you I can't anticipate what questions you may have, so I'm just going to kind of roll through just some of the specifics as we know it. We're looking at 80 to 100 beds. The majority of these will be adult beds. The average length of stay on a acute care hospital is 6 to 8 days, so you're not looking at long-term residential. With the property, which is more than enough space, we would like to keep it as wooded as possible. With respect to neighbors and, make sure that, I like for it to be as quiet as possible. As far as noise, you're not going to hear that much. You're going to have, during the day, you may have, supply trucks or something like that roll in from time to time, but with it being kind of tucked back, you're not going to hear like adults or kids hollering or anything like that, or any type noise. Mainly your traffic's going to be during the day. You're going to have very little during the nights and afternoons. I don't know what other questions. I guess we can. If y'all have questions, I can certainly try to answer them.
Now, with the acute care centers, does that take on, say, a full emergency room that would allow, like, ambulances to come through emergency care that way?
You may have ambulance transfer a patient there. Typically, we would anticipate working very close with Baptist. Let's say you have someone who maybe attempted suicide or something like that come into the emergency room there. What I would hope is that we would be working very close with them. They would treat them medically and then refer them to us to work with them mentally. And they attempted suicide for a reason. We would try to get to the bottom of that, try to help them, get supports in place. Work a discharge plan to get them back into their community and get them home as quick as possible.
So this is seen as a ancillary site or a sister site maybe to our new Baptist facilities that is going in. That's sort of the relationship there.
Yes, I mean it wouldn't be working exclusively with them.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean we would get referrals, from all of, north of here, I'd say within a 50 to 60 mile radius. And these would be, I'd say 2/3 adults. You would have, a large adult population and also a Jerry population. And then let's say, someone's in a nursing home and has a bout with dementia and they need some more supports or help, they would come in. The doctors would work with them, and then work with the nursing home to try to get them back as quick as possible.
So is this like Methodist or Pinnacle Point or something like that?
It is. It is like a.
But you don't
there's
do it any
Bridgeway, Pinnacle. Those are the UHS facilities. Yeah.
Okay. And you anticipate, what's the longest that anybody would stay there? 30 days or?
Well, I don't know
Or
if
do
they
you
would be
get
that
them out?
long.
Yeah.
I know the average length of stay is anywhere from 6 to 8 days. That's typically the average. Now you're going to have some that are going to fall outside of that may stay a little bit longer. All of this is either, the bulk of it is commercial payers. You're going to have some Medicaid payers as well. But yeah, and you may have some that have shorter lengths of stay. It just really depends.
Do you take, like detox?
There,
patients?
I think
Do you
there, we
detox
have talked about doing a substance abuse program. Now, with that, these would be what I would say co-occurring. Let's say so it wouldn't be like a per
they
se,
did on purpose.
just straight, detox program. This would be, that they have some kind of co-occurring mental illness along with it, and we would work with them, and then also work with them on the substance abuse
Or OD'd
issues.
on purpose,
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing? Okay.
So this is a mental health care facility.
That is
Why
correct.
doesn't it say that anywhere here?
It took us a minute to get to that, didn't
Yeah.
I mean, are you trying to hide something?
No.
I don't think it,
No,
mean,
it
I-
said that there's nothing here that would
Yeah, I know,
indicate
but
that.
I
We
mean,
just have to dig
really
and pull
matters.
that out.
Right.
That's a little disconcerting, it really is.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no shame in it,
No, I mean, and
and
I
that's
just,
an
I
illness
know
like a
the, I know
physical
the
illness.
applicant, I mean, we can't be the applicant. I think if I'm not, and y'all can
Right.
speak more to that than I can. I think the applicant has to be,
And
Yeah.
I think hospital services is listed as one of the categories allowed by conditional use within the planning code. So the term hospital services was what got from the planning code to use on this, and that would indicate that it's a non-residential facility, because it's not a residential healthcare facility. a
Like
nursing
Ridgeway.
home or even some of the substance abuse
Yeah.
facilities associated with,
Right.
what you had talked about, so.
this is simply acute care,
yeah,
right?
this
And
is
this
acute
is
care. It's
just
not- it's
changing the
not long-term.
zoning, and then y'all have to come back again. Will they come back again once they get, like, plans?
They're just applying for a conditional use permit to operate within the current RU1 zoning.
And that's where hospital services came from. But then-
Hospital services lists like, it was the whole, laundry list of different services, but the actual conditional use permit is for hospital services.
Okay.
What are the other tenants out there in the technology park? Have you talked to any of them to find out what their viewpoints are about this?
Well, that would be us, I guess.
Yes.
As applicant and the landlord, in some cases, and developer. And yeah, we contacted, pursuant to, conditional use zoning in our lease agreements with tenants, we have some obligations to them. And so we've been in contact with both Craft and Toll and HP, the closest folks, and don't have any rejections.
Yeah. I mean, they're not even that close, really.
Craft and
physically.
Craft and Toll would be the closest, which is the sort of under the plot of land with the building on it that the grass hadn't grown up yet in the picture.
They're the closest tenant, and they're to the
Yeah.
northwest.
And let me say this too, just about the facility. Facilities is a secure facility. It'll be it'll be under lock and key. I mean, it'll all be under one roof. You'll have it'll either be doors operate with either a key or a badge. I mean, we have a badge currently, so they would have to have that. It's got a little chip in it that unlocks the door and all that kind of good stuff. So.
Would anyone else like to, or do you have any other further comments, sir? Okay, would anyone else like to speak in favor of this conditional use request? Would anyone like to speak in opposition to this request? Okay, the first speaker is 10 minutes, and any others have 2 each. Go ahead.
Well, because we started asking him questions. That's why he used his 2 minutes.
All right, my name is Wilbur Owen. I live on Petty Jean Mountain. I own property across the road from the technical park out there. I border them for about 600 and something feet. Some history on this: when the CDC came to the Planning Commission years ago, none of us in the neighborhood out there who own property opposed this technical park quiet business situation. They've done a wonderful job in attracting very good tenants on their campus. They're good neighbors. The only thing that's increased that might be bad is traffic, which is to be expected. The current zoning out there is what they requested at the time, and they told us this is what this park will be, is it'll be quiet business. And this change request for this use permit is a drastic change in what goes on in that park. If you look up Acadia Healthcare's homepage on the internet, you'll find that they specialize in mentally unstable people and addiction treatment. Now, this means that for 24/7, they're going to have people who are addicted to drugs or some other substance, and they're going to have mentally unstable people on the premises. He said 6 to 8 days. Across the roads from this park is mainly residential. There are a lot of people that live in a very close vicinity. When a person is high on drugs and they happen to get away or get loose, they're going to go to the neighboring houses or they're going to go to the parking lots looking for a way to get out. In my opinion, this is not the place for this clinic. This clinic needs to be closer to the new hospital, adjacent to the new hospital, away from residential property. When you look at your charge on this, for this commission, it says that land use which requires conditional use permits in certain zoning districts allows the Conway Planning Commission to exercise additional control over those developments in order to ensure that it will have minimal impact on adjacent and other nearby properties. Now, I can ask you the question, would you like to have this facility across the street from you? And you'll answer me and say, it can't go there because it's not zoned. My property is not zoned for that. Our property is not zoned for that right now. The property adjacent to our property is not zoned for that. They're requesting the change. And I don't think it is a good fit for our neighborhood and for that industrial park down there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sir. Would anyone else like to speak against this conditional use request?
Hello, my name's Ron Bramlett, 25 Wynwood Loop. I live just around the corner from this proposed spot. I can't say any more than what Mr. Owens said, really, except I do feel that it is really close to homes. If you look at the aerial view of it, which I did this afternoon, you can see that homes line the road, across the street, beside it, and to the back. So it is, really close to where people live. I'm not opposed to mental health facilities. I work in mental health, and but I do have a concern about where they would put it. So I would just appreciate your consideration for the residents around there.
Thank you.
Would anyone else like to speak in opposition to this request? Seeing none, I'll bring it back into committee.
Sorry.
Go ahead. The only thing I'm going to say about it is we work really, where I work, we work really closely with Methodist and Pinnacle Point and places like that. And they're very, very secure facilities. They have to be completely secure.
I think
Most of I work with kids, so most of them that we have to do are just emotionally unstable at the moment, like you said, possibly contemplating suicide. Whether they, you know what I'm saying? I mean, they're just emotionally unstable for that particular moment. Some of them, it's a longer term deal and they go other places. But I've been to Methodist, to Pinnacle Point, to Bridgeway, to all of them, and most of them I wouldn't mind having across the street from my house if it were so zoned. I just don't see a problem with it. My 2 cents. Go ahead.
Well, as it stands right now, the zoning isn't there for it.
Right, I know.
And they would need a conditional use permit.
But I'm just saying, it wouldn't bother me to have that across the street from my home.
Right, I understand.
I wouldn't feel threatened.
Right. It bothers me a little bit that just reading the information that we got about this hospital, I envisioned, okay, it's a hospital, where people come who have varying kinds of medical issues and so forth and so on. And nowhere in here did it indicate to me that it was, a mental health facility.
Does that matter a great deal?
It matters if there was an effort to hide it, if there was subterfuge. I mean, why not just state it? Why not just?
Well, I mean, would Carti say we're a cancer facility?
Well,
Or would they say
everybody knows what Carti is, and
Well, I'm just giving that as an
right.
example.
But when you say hospital, what do most people think? A facility like Conway Regional or Baptist,
That's what they're
where
getting.
all
It's
kinds of
medical
medical
treatment.
issues are dealt with.
I don't think they were trying to hide it. I ran into Jamie earlier this week, and he's like, hey, there's something coming up on the planning commission. It is a mental health, and I asked him some questions about it. So he wasn't like trying to hide it. He told me it's a mental health facility, and so, I don't feel like they were trying to hide it. I think this is just the wording that our planning commission uses on this piece of paper, and then it's up to us to kind of get the whole picture, which I think happens in this committee a lot, something like it feels like. But, so anyway, I'm just saying I don't feel like they were trying to hide it, because he just came out and told me that, so.
So, Mr. Wilshire, I have a question for you, sir. One of the issues, obviously, that's been talked about so far is security. Can you talk about maybe the incident rate at some of your other facilities that are similar to this as far as impact to the neighborhoods in which you operate?
Okay. I can tell you, I mean, I don't have specific numbers, but I can tell you it's extremely low. If you look at the majority of the adults that are here, these are not court-ordered. These are adults that want help. They want treatment. So they're not going to be trying to escape once they come in. They can just check themselves out. And then, these, you're talking about 2/3 of the program being adults and Jerry. So, so whenever they come here, they're wanting help. They're wanting treatment. You're not going to have anybody who's actively high or on drugs or anything like that that's there. There is a detox program, but the whole point of that is for them to get off of that off of those drugs. So, they would check themselves in, and then they would work through the program. And if, and again, so the whole facility would be secure. You're going to have, the front, I don't know how we'll lay it out yet, but I can tell you that the entire facility, just because of concerns, and we don't want to have, folks just being able to walk in and walk out, it will be completely locked. There will only be authorized personnel that go through, that come through those doors, with the exception of visitors that come to see their loved ones. That's basically.
And how do they access the building?
They would come through the front. They would come through reception. There'll be certain hours that they can come, and they would have to check in. They would go through a little waiver, basically, saying that, discussing HIPAA and confidentiality, and then they would be able to go in and visit, and then they would leave.
Okay.
On site, do you have security personnel, whether it be your own security personnel or hired third-party Securitas type security officers?
I will say the majority of the facilities that we have, we don't have on-site security because we haven't had to need them. We haven't had to use them. I mean, it hasn't been an issue. As far as patients attempting to escape or something like that. I would say what you were referencing earlier with Pinnacle and Bridgeway, if I'm not mistaken, I don't think they have security guards either. So
Would that
I've
be
never
something
seen
that would be foreseeable, however, to put these folks that live around there at
If,
ease?
if we foresaw, if it became an issue, I don't think it would be a problem to do. I mean, that would certainly be a business decision, but I mean, if it became an issue, we would certainly take every measures, I mean, we don't want to come in and, I mean, we want to be good neighbors all the way around. I don't care whether it's business or residential. I mean, at the facility I'm at now, we have, in our community, we have citizens that line all around. It's no different than what we have here, and we get along fine with them. So I don't really foresee it being an issue.
This is a pretty big piece of land. It's like 9.5 acres. So how much of that space is 70,000 square foot building take up? I mean, is that going to take up 4 acres of it or 2?
Almost 2, 1.5.
1.5? So the building would be 1.5 of the acres, and so you got a lot of buffer space is what I'm kind of getting at. We in the past have had some like storage buildings where we made them do special shrubs where you can't really see it from the street and that
Yeah.
sort of stuff that sometimes helps put people at ease a little bit. But I don't know if that's something useful in this spot or not. But
I'll tell you what I envision. Just and I mean, I haven't gotten the plans yet, but having a nice road leading back. I want to, I would want to build at the back of the property, toward the back. I wouldn't want to be right there, frontage.
you're going to leave a lot of those
Yes,
woods
I
around
want
there.
to,
You're not going to
believe me,
clear cut
I
it.
love trees. I want as many of them as I can get. So
Okay.
we would keep it as wooded as possible.
Mr. Owens, I feel like you had your hand up, and we've given him some more time. And if you have something you want to say, I'll ask you a question and open it to you.
I'm not concerned about the mental health aspect.
Okay.
I'm concerned about the addiction.
Okay.
That's my problem with it.
Right.
My other problem with it is the NEC did it essentially when they got the zoning for that park. Quiet office.
Right.
And this is a fairly drastic change from that none of the residents even all come in or even thought about 10 years ago when we didn't object to the development of Colonel Neal's farm into a big.
Okay.
And I truly feel that this is not the place for that clinic. A new hospital going in, land all the way around it that could be utilized for hospital use or hospital services. And not come out there, that section of the city, which we're not in the city, but it is the city, the park is. And I don't think it's a good fit for it.
Okay.
You might not mind having it across the street, that's fine. But I don't think it's a good move for this planning commission to make for that neighborhood and that area out there.
Thank you, Mr. Owens. Sorry, I felt like we owed it.
No,
No,
that's
it's
fine.
Right,
perfect.
Brian,
I
you're right.
apologize.
No. Don't apologize.
Fair enough.
Mr. Gates, can maybe you address why it wasn't located or offered to be located closer to the Baptists as we're trying to make that more of a,
Sure. Yeah. Well, then one question I do have, and I had emailed. I had a question because I sent a fairly awkwardly long email to the conwayplanning@gmail.com, and so that was, it aired on the side of oversharing, I think, just with its length, and so I was trying to make sure that if any of y'all had received that, and so
We haven't,
Well,
I haven't seen it.
would have either probably Saturday or so. Okay. Well, when you send that, it says you forwarded this to all of the planning commissioners. And
Right.
So, but anyway, well, maybe you'll eventually see it. But we can cover it all here. But just to speak to the fact of kind of I'm trying to give as many details as I could, where y'all still had some time to review it before you got here, and company name and patient mix and all that stuff. When it comes to site selection, one, I think this is and Matt can get more into the business model and Actually, Matt was my first contact with Acadia as he was kind of scouting property. But this is property that is close to Baptist Hospital. 5 minutes, 5 to 7 minutes is close by healthcare, commercial, or any other standards, and it's also close to Conway Regional. When you're talking about other locations are going to be hospitals in Russellville and Morrilton, and our hospital or our healthcare kind of trade area is really like 5 counties, and so when I asked that same question to someone with Acadia out of state, and he said, well, now, and my understanding is we're close to the hospital. And yes, so proximity to the hospital is actually one reason they do like this site. The future interchange is also a consideration when you talk about a regional destination, not only for patients, but also for employees. And then finally, it's a distinction. It may be a thin one, but this isn't a rezoning. This is a use that is allowed by condition, and that's an important distinction in our mind. And I think there are lots of projects and prospects that we work with that would not be allowed in the technology park because of the zoning. This is not one of those. This is one that is allowed given certain conditions, and I think the term hospital services is one that is it's cross-tabbed in the zoning ordinance.
But I think you could probably agree with maybe some of their concerns.
Oh, absolutely.
That this is a smidge more residential versus maybe a little bit closer to the New Baptist location, where it's more commercial, less residential.
Well, and when you're considering versus the New Baptist location, you're going to be talking about, literally the most expensive real estate, probably in our city right now. And I don't know that that's a deal breaker, but it probably would be when you're talking about some of those things. Everything can't be located there. So I think that Acadia feels like they are getting proximity to major healthcare providers with this location, but it's not adjacent.
Is Sturgis going to be 4-lane at some point?
I think we're moving into city council type stuff now, but yes, I think at some point, I think what's likely is to build one half of the 4-lane when you improve Sturgis, and then you'll come back and build the other half of it, just like they would with sections of the loop as they implement that. But our own covenants for the technology park address a lot of the things that are typically covered in conditional use arrangements. We talk about screening and the requirement on building materials and what happened, buffering and landscaping, and it's comprehensive. All the way down to building materials. And so that was one reason I wanted to send that email, is because a list of our covenants and restrictions are attached. I hope that's an explanation. And it is fair to say that this was not contemplated 10 years ago, and I didn't know that facilities like this existed, 4 months ago.
Sure. Thank you. At the end of the day, I've worked out there for 6+ years now. I don't think it's that much of a stretch to say that this type of facility is still going to be more of a quiet office facility. So I don't think it's that far of a stretch. I get the concerns of the citizens. I still think it's within the long-term growth plan for the area, for the city. I think it's needed.
I think it's needed in this town. If we have an acute care situation, we call people in from Russellville, from Little Rock, and Maumelle to assess, to see. We don't have anybody here that we can call to do that. And just working in a field where that's necessary, unfortunately, I think it would be an asset to Conway.
Well, I think a facility like this would definitely be an asset, not there. I think their rationale for choosing that site, when you compare it with the concerns that the residents have, I don't think it's all things being equal. It's a non-conforming entity for the zoning right now. And if it were the only piece of property available, you know, for the hospital, I'd say yes, but it's not. And their reason for choosing it had to do with how much the land costs.
Well, I don't know that it's non-conforming for the current zoning.
It is non-conforming for the current zoning.
I mean, I think we just have to give it, they're just asking for a conditional use under the current zoning. I mean, I don't think it's
We're not
non-conforming.
changing the zoning.
Well,
We're not changing the zoning.
No. What I'm saying is, this facility, it's non-conforming. You can't put it there now without the conditional use. That makes it non-conforming.
It's not guaranteed by right of the zoning.
Exactly.
Right.
Without that conditional use permit, it couldn't.
I think
go.
if I had a teenager that had a drug addiction or problem, that I would want them somewhere like that as opposed to right next to the hospital where there's a lot more traffic and a chance of somebody blowing the HIPAA violation because they see them going in and out or see their mom going in and out or something like that. And I kind of like it. It's going to be secluded. I really don't think that these people are ever even going to hardly see it from the road once it gets in there. It's a heavily wooded area.
Yeah.
If they do this right and stick it kind of in that back corner, I mean, you won't ever even know this building is there.
And other than employees coming and going, you're not gonna have that much.
150 good paying
traffic.
employees.
Yeah. You're not gonna have that much traffic, I don't think.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion to approve this conditional use request by Brian Quinn, a second from Ann Tucker. I'd like to ask for a show of hands on this. All in favor, please raise your hand. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in favor. All opposed? That passes 6-2. Or am I counting correct? Yes, 6-2. That conditional use request is approved.
Is that something that will go before the city council?
Yeah,
Yes.
they'll have to approve the conditional use,
Yes. Yeah.
AKA homeless shelters.
Yeah.
We've had two, and the bank on the corner.
And the bank on the corner.
And you're up.
No, we gotta talk about the nominations.
Okay, the last thing we need to cover tonight is the schedule for the nomination of
Very much.
2016 Planning Commission members. You see, one of the interviewing groups has met. So, Marilyn, would you like to give us a report?
Yes, my committee conducted interviews last Thursday evening, and we actually had 3 applicants to interview. One of our applicants bowed out, and another one was a no-show. She has since requested a Skype interview, and Dr. Leffler, and I sent Jerry an email asking him if his committee, since you're going to be conducting interviews on the 19th, if you would set that up for her. I didn't hear back from you, so.
Yeah, I sent her an email today with the time slot, and so we'll see if she replies.
Okay,
The 6:45?
Yes.
right, I had not heard from
Sorry.
her since then.
Did she
Yeah,
give
I
you a
meant to
reason why
copy
she
you on
didn't
that
go?
email, and I forgot.
Okay, her reason was that she thought that she had not been given enough information, but I gave her the same information that I gave the other applicants, and I left the information on her answering machine at her workplace as well as her home, and I did not hear from her. And then on, I guess it was maybe the day after, the morning after we conducted interviews, she contacted the planning office, and she indicated that she had not been given the correct information or the right information or something. She got the same information the other applicants got, and I heard from the other 4, but not for her. So anyway, I remember last year that we, when we interviewed
Me.
Justin, we did a Skype interview, so I knew it was possible to do that. She suggested it, and I passed it along to Jerry.
Yeah, we,
Technology for all that. You can do all that.
well,
I do. I can bring it with me.
yeah, we have
now 4 interviews scheduled with Ms. Leffler as the 4th. I've tried to reach out to Kimmy, Mr. Cleveland, and
You weren't able to get him?
several times, and so far been unable to reach him. I don't have a email for him, just one phone number. So I've left like 3 messages on his voicemail, and so and so far no response. So, but the other 3 applicants have all verified of their time. I've spoken to them, and so if Ms. Leffler, I'll send her a note today with the available time slot we have, and so we'll see if she responds.
So we're starting at 6 o'clock Thursday night?
Indeed.
Okay. Did she give any indication why she needed to Skype?
That's so weird. She called
She,
me.
yes, she is going on a professional conference for the 19th through the 23rd. She'll be out of state. Well, she'll be at a conference. I don't know if it's out where I don't remember if she said where the conference is, but that's why she was not going to be available for a face-to-face.
I'm more interested in what information she didn't think she had enough of.
Well,
Because when I interviewed last year, it was more like, well, here's your time, let's go.
Okay, I think what.
My fault, because we came down to the wire. And,
Right.
I mean, so that's why I felt like I could work with him.
Right.
Because we did kind of come down to the wire on that.
Exactly. I think that she was getting ready for this conference, and I think she had those conference dates on her mind, because when she responded to me, she referred to a date that was that week. She was like, had already moved ahead in her mind to that week. And so I think that's probably why she became confused.
She called me right
I'm
after
going to
she
give her that.
applied and was, or, applied and was like, asking me questions about it and said she was very interested in stuff. And I was like, okay, great. And I, answered all of her questions. Well, I mean, I know her husband, Marty Leffler, one of the Lefflers, but I don't really know her, but I talked to her on the phone, and so it's weird that she just no-showed. Anyway.
Well, I think she didn't check her messages until after we had already finished our interviews, and she realized that she'd missed the deadline, and then she called Beth.
She actually emailed the common planning, tries to Brian, and Brian hands it out, and that's why the other email hasn't gone out, it's done on Saturday. But I don't think it came in after lunch on the Thursday, and then, by the time it got out, he's already been feedback.
Right, right.
Well, we'll meet on Thursday, and hopefully she responds between now and Thursday and confirms. And so if she makes herself available this week, then we'll dial her in.
Okay, good. Okay, and
Yeah.
then we'll need to get together to compare notes, because we had crossed her name off and looked at the 3 that we had and actually made a choice.
Okay, so we're not gonna do like we did last year and bring it down to, I mean, is each committee going to make a choice, or are we gonna?
We were narrowing the field, and we said, okay, we will give this name to the other committee for them to consider. And
Okay.
then we'll get together with what you come up with, and then we'll have our 2 choices.
Maybe we'll only have one.
Pardon me?
I mean, maybe we'll only have one, and it'll be kind of a no-brainer.
Well,
Three.
when Jerry and I looked at all of the applicants, just looking at them on paper, it 2 of them really stood out. I mean, head and shoulders above the others. But that was before we interviewed anybody. And so anyway, that's where we are.
So
You have to recommend 2 to the city council, so am I traditionally, one subcommittee recommends one, the other subcommittee recommends the other, so.
Last
Not-
time you
not
narrowed it down to like
necessarily.
4.
Each one put 2, and then everybody that could got together, interviewed a second time,
Yeah.
those 4, and we chose from there. Remember?
But now, since we're already going to be beyond this schedule here of doing these interviews between November 1st and 15th, are we going to have time for
I talked to,
a second round of interviews? I mean, you know, we have a timeline.
I talked to Wes Pruitt on the city council, and he's like, it's no big deal if y'all want to just send them to us December. But you may be able to answer to that better than,
Brian errs on the side of caution, so when Brian draws up these 60-day timelines, or 90, if you consider the actual nomination month,
Yeah.
October, Brian's making sure that he gives plenty of time for you all to manage this process, but ultimately it is your process. And of course, there's some courtesy you'd want to give the city council in making sure that they have as much time as possible to consider the nominations. Having watched this take place for 10 years now, I can tell you that city council I've never seen city council push back on your recommendations. The names that you all send to city council are almost, in every case that I've been a part of in a decade, they approve them the night that they hear them. So I
As long as we can get
offer all
to 'em by
that to say
December.
this, that if you all need some extra time to make sure you're submitting the right names to city council, it's your time, it's your process.
Let's do these interviews Thursday night, and then we'll have Jerry call everybody.
Yeah, if we can come up with our recommendations Thursday night before we leave, we should know. And then maybe I'll send an email out to the group and Brian and Beth, and then we'll get together maybe next week, Tuesday or Thursday, and
Oh, next week's Thanksgiving.
we can do it Monday. I mean,
Yeah, Monday
you
or
could just do it Monday
Tuesday.
night, just like his regular meeting.
a quick meeting, and
It's only gonna be 4 at the most, right?
maybe we can.
Yeah, and we're required to give 30 days
21.
notice to city council according to this chart. And so, yeah, if we could get together that following, a week from tonight, we'd
Where-
still be well within the 30-day requirement.
Yeah, we'll probably
It's actually 20-day requirement.
we'll probably just tell everybody Thursday that they need to be available
Right
for
here.
Yeah, I know.
a second interview Monday.
And Beth said the second meeting,
22nd will be the meeting where they will actually have to take deciding action, but we have to back up a minimum of a week before that, and agenda items will be due.
So a week before the 22nd of December.
So aim at the very latest for the 14th.
Okay.
So we'll just tell everybody Thursday that they'll probably need to be available Monday for a second interview, and we'll go from there.
I think that's good. Do it as soon as possible after Thursday, which all the applicants are fresh in our minds. Why don't we, going to say 7 o'clock at City Hall, a week from tonight?
Monday, yeah.
Yeah, the two groups.
You wanna
get
do it at
together?
6 and get it over
Or
with?
Well, it doesn't matter, 6.
On the 23rd, there'll be a meeting in that conference room at 6 o'clock.
we can kick them out. We can kick them out. I'm just kidding.
About how long do you think that meeting will last?
They have 3 items, it's the Historic District Commission.
Oh.
They have 3 items to read.
Y'all can meet upstairs, or
We could-
I can get you in the police.
Yeah, there's a conference room upstairs in the planning department, up at the top of the stairs to the right. We could just go there.
We could meet at the chamber, we could meet at the police station.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why don't we just meet at the, that upstairs room of the planning department? What do you all prefer for the time?
I'd rather get it over with and get home. I'd like
Well, the working
6.
people, let's let them decide, I mean.
I don't work.
Not for right now.
rather
Brian
than just-
works.
Well, I mean, you're
Does any of us work in Little Rock that can't get back here by 6?
No, I'm good.
Like 6 personally.
6 fine with me, is that
I'm gonna be
okay?
out of state that day, so.
Okay, Matt won't be here. Is that okay with you?
That's fine with me.
6 o'clock it is.
Lee
Okay.
actually works in Little Rock. Do we need him? Do we care?
He doesn't care.
Okay.
He's
Lee's
not part
out.
of this process. Mr.
6 on Monday.
6 is.
Acting Chairman, there being no further business, I make a motion to
Okay.
adjourn.
Is there a second to that
Second.
motion? All right, all in favor? please.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed?